everyone, and welcome to my reaction to my 2020 goals and my 2021 goals video. So we're at the end of 2020, and around this time last year, in front of this tree in this spot, I did a video of my 2020 goals. So what I thought I'd do is react to it and then give you my 2021 goals, because I thought that was a good idea, just to see if I actually achieved what I said I would achieve. I don't know, but let's see what happened. Hey guys, and welcome to my 2020 goals video. Now I thought I'd do this video in front of the Christmas tree because, well, people generally like Christmas. I'm not generally a Christmassy person, I am a Grinch, but I thought I'd do it in front of here because, well, twinkly lights and all the rest of it. But today I thought I'd tell you all about my reading goals for next year, as well as my reading plans for next year in terms of what reading challenges I'm going to be doing, and also my channel goals, because I just felt like telling you guys all of that and making a huge great big video about it, seeing as everybody else is doing their goals videos. I'm going to start this with my channel goals though, because that seems to be the easiest one to start with, because there ain't that many of them, and then I'll go into reading goals and then the reading challenges I'm taking part in next year as well. So in terms of channel goals, I've really only got 4 goals for it. It's nothing to do with subscriber count or anything like that, simply because, quite frankly, I can't control that, to be honest, and I don't want to set myself a goal of saying, oh, I want 300 subscribers by the end of the year or anything like that, because I feel like if I don't get that goal, I then just get really, really stressed out. So instead, I'm talking about how I'm going to improve my videos and stuff like that. So the first thing I want to do is make an intro and an outro for my channel, because I really love looking at everybody else's and I want to join in with that. I've had plans for it for years now. I did film an intro outro bit, but unfortunately I couldn't use it simply because I was using my phone camera, and it was my old phone camera and it was really, really rubbish, and then I never got around to actually refilming that with this camera in my new setup, so I just never did it. But I do want to start next year with an intro and an outro, or at least an intro or at least an outro. If I have at least one, I'll be happy, but I want both. I also want to learn to stop waffling so much, because as we all know, I like to talk a bit too much for my own good, so I want to sort of condense that a little bit and maybe have a bit of waffle, but not so much I'm just sort of rambling on for 20 minutes, you know, because I feel like I do that a lot and I just want to sort of condense that down a bit, so A, my videos are shorter so they upload quicker, and B, I don't bore you to death. Another thing I want to do is try and get better lighting and also better camera footage, because quite frankly my phone camera, I have realised, does really, really grainy footage. I've just noticed this bit as well is really, really, really grainy, which is really annoying, and it doesn't matter what time of year I try to film at or whatever, it's just really grainy no matter what I do. So I've made plans to get a ring light in the Boxing Day sales, as well as a new camera, because at the moment I'm using my phone and it's clearly not working that well. So I also want to get a new camera and a ring light so I can improve the whole lighting situation and the video quality situation. I do have stuff picked out, so fingers crossed they go down in the January sales. If not, I'm still going to get them because I need them. I've just noticed that I've got 2 dots on my face, but never mind, it's there. I'm not going to move now, it's already been here. I'm just going to carry on. Anyway, for my reading goals, I do want to read... Okay, so I managed to achieve ring light and also a camera. I actually got the ones that were on sale, so yay me. I have discovered that this tripod is a pain in the backside, because while you can't see it, I have literally duct taped the camera to the ring light so it actually stays up, because my one keeps on like falling down and doing this and then this and then this and then this and then this, and it just doesn't stay in place essentially. But at least the camera quality is better now, and also the lighting's better, so I'm good on that front. Also, I did not stop waffling. I did not stop waffling. I still waffle, as we can see from one of my previous videos, which I'll link to up top, where I was discussing all of the Marvel news. I am still a waffler. I just waffle quicker. But to be fair, on that video, I was very, very excited, and I tend to waffle when I get excited and I get going on one of my obsessions, so yeah. And I also made an intro and an outro video, which you will have seen the intro for on this video, so I did make those as well. So yay, I actually managed my channel goals, sort of. I didn't sort out the waffling, sorted out everything else. 60 books next year, because I always set my goal for 60 books, because that feels obtainable to me, because that's just over 1 book a week, which to be honest, it does feel obtainable to me because I read a lot of graphic novels and a lot of short books and generally leave the longer books for stuff like tome topple. So I want to be able to read 60 books. Obviously, I'm going to try and go over that, but 60 books is the minimum I want to read. And I don't set it any higher because I don't want to stress myself out too much, but I don't set it any lower because I feel like it's not a challenge. So 60 books is where I'm staying at. As for the content, so I did manage to achieve that. At the time of filming, I've managed to read about 140 books, I think it is. I will leave the actual number here because I can't actually remember because I'm not on Goodreads at the moment. So I've definitely doubled that book count and then some, so good on that front. And I did not actually leave the books, the longer books, the tome topple books for just tome topple. I've been reading Brandon Sanderson all year and his books average at about 500 to 1,000 pages. So I've been reading them all year, so I've definitely not left them for tome topple. So I've done quite well there, to be honest, because that's a lot of reading and a lot of books, so I'm quite happy with that, quite frankly. 10 of the books I want to read more novels and less graphic novels. I'm saying this like I'm not going to try and borrow a whole ton of manga from the library, but I do definitely want to read more novels next year. This year has been very much graphic novel based for me, and that's been absolutely amazing. I've bought too many as well to replace the ones I've read, but I've read so many amazing comics this year, and I love reading comics. I always love reading comics, but I feel like I focused a bit too much on them this year, and I want to focus more on reading novels in 2020 because at the moment I've got a whole ton of novels sitting on my shelves collecting dust, and I want to get to them. So next year I want to read more novels compared to graphic novels. I still want to read graphic novels. I want to get into manga, but novels is where I want my main focus to be. I'm pretty sure I've read more books this year. I think. I'm like 90% sure I've read more books this year, but I also started the comic book section, which I'll leave a link to down below, which is my website dedicated to Marvel comics. So I've been reading a lot of Marvel comics. To be honest, I've read more Marvel comics than I've watched movies this year, and I have no regrets on that one because there's been no new films, so I couldn't really be blamed for that one. But I definitely think I've read more books this year. I'll have to look at my stats because I haven't actually looked at my yearly stats yet. I'll probably do a stats video at the beginning of January when I've got all of it sorted for the entire year, so I'll see then. But I'm pretty sure I've read more books this year. As for manga, I've read 5. But to be fair to me, the libraries have been closed for 90% of the year, so I haven't exactly been able to get there, and my Overdrive has got no manga on it, so yeah, I'm not going to blame myself much for that one because I can't really be blamed for that. I'll try again next year when all the libraries are open and we're all fully vaccinated. I'll try again for manga then. But there we go. As for the content of these books, I want to read more female authors, more disabled authors, more POC authors, and more LGBTQIA+ authors. Because as you can see from this reading chart from my reading log this year, I have read predominantly straight white American men. And quite frankly, that's not good enough for me. It's been like 90% or however percentage it is, it doesn't actually say on there, but it's a large percentage have been straight white American men, and quite frankly I want that to change because while I have enjoyed all the books I've read, or at least most of the books I've read, I want to read more from more perspectives because straight white American men are just one perspective in the world, and I want to read more from all other cultures and from female points of view and from POC authors, disabled authors, LGBTQIA+ authors, so I want to get on that as well this year. I'm going to set my goal at least one author a month that is diverse in some way or other. Obviously I'm going to try and hit more than that, but I'll be happy to start next year with just one diverse author a month and build it up over the next few years, so I'm reading round about 50-50 if I can manage it. I've actually managed that one, quite frankly. I've definitely read at least one diverse author a month. I've definitely set that as a goal, and I definitely think I have managed it. I will leave the chart here if I can manage it with the video and everything else. If not, it will be in my stats video, but I know for a fact that I have definitely read more POC authors, I've definitely read more female authors, and I have definitely read more LGBTQIA+ authors. I cannot say I've read that many disabled authors though. That one I'm still struggling with. So if you've got any like sci-fi fantasy recommendations from disabled authors, please leave the recommendations down below because I would love to check them out. But I am quite happy with my progress so far. I think it averaged out at more like 2 a month, which is great because obviously that is far better than last year. I'm obviously still going to be trying to build that up a lot more over the next few years and stuff, but I do think that was a pretty good start. I also want to read more sci-fi next year because I feel like I leave a lot of my sci-fi on the shelves and I rarely read it, so I do definitely want to read more sci-fi next year. I still haven't read sci-fi. I've read like 4 sci-fi. Last year I read 3 sci-fi, so I've read more sci-fi this year. I just haven't read that much of it again. But to be fair, the Bookopoly board did not give me sci-fi, but hopefully TBR Assemble, which I will be unveiling after Christmas in the week before January, there is a better chance I land on sci-fi next year. So hopefully I read more sci-fi next year and not balance the books, because I'm sure I'm always going to read more fantasy, but maybe higher it up a little bit so I read more than 4. I'm going to aim for double digits. I'm going to aim for about 10 sci-fis in 2021. That's what I'm going to do, 10 sci-fis. I'll have to write that down. I'll write that down. I also want to use the library more next year because, quite frankly, I have completely discounted my library for the last couple of years simply because they're a tiny library attached to a school, like the primary school in my village, so I just thought they didn't have anything, and every single time I went in there, the only books that they had that I was interested in, I already owned, so I didn't bother really going in there that often. But then I realised that you can actually order in from the main library into our tiny library, so I can read books that way. So what I want to do next year is to borrow all of my manga from the library, because quite frankly manga is a very, very expensive hobby and I don't have enough space on my shelves, and quite frankly I'm scared my Kindle app will bust if I put a whole load of manga on there, as well as all the comics and the various Kindle books I've also got on there. So I want to borrow them from the library along with a couple of other authors as well, that I'm not really sure about or I just don't want on my shelves. So I'm going to try and use the library more. I have not used the library more, to be fair. Like I said, the libraries have been closed this year, so I'm going to give myself a bit of a pass on that one, because obviously if the libraries are closed I can't use them, and my Libby is also awful. Again, Libby, Overdrive, whatever you want to call it, and also Hoopla have nothing unless I already own them. There's like 4 books I've earmarked, but they're generally constantly out of availability, and someone's always got them on reserve, so I never actually get to them. But fingers crossed, again, once we're all vaccinated and everything else, I will be able to actually use my library, because that'd be fantastic. Because obviously I want to read more manga, and I obviously want to read more books in general, so I want to get them from the library and support my local library. I just can't do that right now because we're in a pandemic, but fingers crossed it'll all be over next year and we'll all be vaccinated and I'll feel safe enough to go into a library again. But who knows? I'm not even going to hold myself to that for 2021 because who knows what's going to happen. Then weirdly, in saying all of that, I do want to take a step back from the readathons a little bit and actually stop worrying so much about getting all of the books read all the time and actually try and get other things done, because I feel like this year I've gone into the habit of doing all the readathons and trying to push myself to do all of the prompts and read all of the books, and quite frankly that is stressing me out no end, and I just get stressed when I don't complete the entire prompt list or whatever. It stresses me out to the point of no return, and it means that I am now just putting off doing stuff like writing my own book and watching stuff that I want to watch and stuff like this because I just want to get all the books done. So what I want to do is take a step back a little bit and give myself some time to read some fan fiction, because I've got 7 pages on my watch later list on AO3 and at least 10 emails I think of various fanfic updates that I haven't read, as well as a whole load of recommendations lists saved on Tumblr that I haven't even gone through yet. And I do want to make a dent in that list at the very least next year and play catch up on that. I also want to be able to write again, because I seem to be stepping back from writing so I can do all the reading, and I just generally want to have fun reading again. So I do want to take a little bit of a step back with reading next year. Admittedly, I do have a plan for this because I have made a Bookopoly board for next year. Spoiler alert for next year, but I do have a Bookopoly board that I haven't actually printed out yet, but I've got all the stuff ready for it, so I just need to print it out and stick it on card and then it's ready to go. And on there I do actually have a section that says fan fiction, so if I want to read some damn fan fiction, I can read the damn fan fiction, which is going to be really, really nice, because it means that I'm giving myself permission to read the fan fiction, which I desperately need to do. So I've got a plan for that, and fingers crossed it actually works. I did not take a step back from the readathons. I did all the readathons. I think I managed January without a readathon. I think I managed March without a readathon, and then the rest of it was at least one readathon a month. I didn't manage that one at all. I did not. I really didn't manage that one. I have no words apart from I didn't manage that. I also didn't manage to read all the fanfic. Those 7 pages grew to 20. Currently in my inbox is at least one full story from my favourite fanfic author and the start of a new one, which I haven't even touched yet. I have at least 8 different recommendations lists in my Tumblr likes, and I still haven't read them yet. I haven't even looked at them. Again, I have a plan for TBR Assemble. There is a plan on TBR Assemble for this, but I'm just sitting there going, oh, that didn't happen. Look, there was a pandemic this year, guys. I just ended up reading all the books because apparently that made me feel good. So I read all the books. For some reason I didn't watch all the Marvel movies or TV shows. I probably should have done that. But I read 140 books this year, but then I bought in a hell of a lot more than that. So yeah, I'm not going to try and justify this to myself. There was a pandemic. That's what I'm going out with. There was a pandemic. I stressed. I read all the books. But funnily enough, all the readathons didn't stress me out this year. So I don't know what happened there. Maybe there was just so much stress from the outside world that I just forgot that the readathons were a stress issue. I don't know, I'll see what happens next year. Again, I'll see what happens next year when everything's fine. But there were so many cool readathons. There were so many. I couldn't resist them all. And the only other thing I've got to tell you about is the reading challenges I'm doing, because I'm doing 2 of them. I know I just said I'm taking a step back, but I have worked both of these into my Bookopoly board, which you will see at probably the last Monday of the year, possibly the first Friday of 2020. I'm not entirely sure yet. It depends on when the camera comes and when I get time to film and edit and upload. But anyway, the plan is to take part in Turtle Recall, which is the Terry Pratchett challenge, which is to basically read as many Discworld novels as you want to. I'm aiming for 1 to 5, I think, because that feels like an easy number to hit, and I don't want to push myself too hard, and I also want to stretch out, obviously, all the Discworld novels for as long as possible, because, quite frankly, there may be 40 of them, but if I try to read like 10 of them a year or something, I'm going to get through them like that, and I don't really want to do that. So I want to stretch them out a bit further, so I'm going to say 1 to 5. And the second challenge I'm doing is the retelling bingo board. I will link these both down below so you can check them out yourselves. But the retellings bingo board is basically a bingo board for fairy tale and general classic stories retellings. And I want to take part in this because I found out about 2019's too late to start taking. I'm going to stop that video there. I did Turtle Recall. I think I actually met my goal of 5. I think I read 4 or 5. I'll leave the number here because I can't actually remember how many I read. But I definitely read 4 or 5 of them, so that worked. Retellings bingo. I didn't get a single bingo. I was aiming for a blackout and I didn't even manage a line. I managed 4 or 5 just in random places instead. So yeah, that failed. That absolutely, completely and utterly failed, essentially. But that gives you basically the idea of what my goals were. I had a bit of a mixed one. I did quite a few of them quite well, and then others I utterly failed at. I'm not going to blame myself too hard. I read a lot of books. I didn't manage to go to the library, but I read a lot of books and got a lot of books off the TBR. Yeah, I'm going to say I achieved many of those goals. Not as well as I would have hoped, but I achieved quite a few of those goals. Quite happy with that. But now onto the 2021 goals. So the first one I'm going to say again is read 60 books. I'm always going to say 60 because that is just over 1 a week, like I said in the video. So that feels achievable to me, and yeah, it just feels achievable. So 60 books is going to be. Obviously I'm going to aim for more of that, but 60 will do. I'm not going to say I want to read more graphic novels than books or books and graphic novels or whatever, because quite frankly it's not down to me, it's down to my board. And so I'm just going to sort of go with whatever it says. Also, I do have to read a lot of comics anyway because of the Sanctum, and also because there's a hell of a lot of Marvel stuff coming out next year. There's literally 4 TV shows and 3 films if I remember rightly. So I'm going to be busy reading all the comics to do with all of those stuff. But there we go. So I'm not going to say I want to read more novels or whatever. I'm just going to say I want to read 60 books and leave it at that. Again, I want to read more sci-fi. I'm going to aim for 10 this time because that feels reasonably achievable. That's nearly one a month and that feels achievable. But again, it's going to be down to the TBR Assemble board, so I'm not going to push myself too hard on that one. But if I can read 10, I'll be happy. If I can't, at least I'd like to read a few of them. Quite frankly, I have like a shelf of sci-fi. I've got a couple of shelves of sci-fi. And I've recently rediscovered my Doctor Who and Torchwood books. So I'm going to have fun reliving my childhood there, I think, if the board allows it. Another one I want to do is read more retellings, because this year I sucked at retellings, as you can clearly tell by the retellings bingo board being practically empty. I'd like to read more retellings this year. For some reason that just did not work on the Bookopoly board. I'm hoping TBR Assemble gives me more. If not, I may just try to work them in anyway, because I like retellings. I've got an entire bookshelf dedicated to retellings. I should probably read some of them. I also want to read more fan fiction, but I keep on saying this, but again, I've got like 20 pages worth of fanfic saved on my Archive of Our Own account and I haven't read them yet. So I am going to at least attempt to get them down. I'm not going to aim for a number of pages, because what I usually do is read a few and then add double that amount back onto the list again. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to attempt to read more fan fiction. Again, there is a plan for this. On the TBR Assemble board I have an entire section dedicated to fan fiction, and I'm hoping it's going to encourage me to read the damn fan fiction, because I really, really, really want to read more fan fiction, because I've missed it in the last couple of years, quite frankly. The list is growing absolutely to ridiculous levels and I just want to read more and get a few of it off the actual list. I also want to read more diversely. Like I said last year, I still want to continue on with that project of reading more and more diverse authors every single month. So I'm going to aim for, I'm not going to give it a number actually, I'm going to say I want to read more diversely and head further towards that goal of 50-50 on the like white or straight white author, and also obviously LGBTQ, disabled and POC authors as well. I just want to sort of make that 50-50 or as close to 50-50 as possible, so I want to keep on aiming more towards that goal. I don't think I'm going to achieve it in 2021, but I would like to continue pushing towards that goal. I also want to get some older books off the TBR, because I've got quite a few books now that are very old on my TBR that's been there either since childhood or at least the last 5 years since I started reading books again. So I'd like to get a few of those off the list, just so they're off the list essentially, because that'd be fun. Just so I can say, hey look, I actually read the books I buy instead of just buying more and reading the new ones. I like to actually focus a bit more on the older stuff. Also, I'm going to say on that front, I've got to stop ignoring comics from other publishers, because at the moment I'm mainly focused on Marvel. I'm still going to say the Comic Book Sanctum is entirely dedicated to Marvel. That's not going to change. But I do still own Rat Queens, because unfortunately I bought all of Rat Queens up until volume 6 before I realised that one of the creators was an awful human being. So unfortunately I've still got all of those. I've got The Witcher, I've got Hellboy, I've got Abe Sapien, I've got The Old Guard, I've got so many other things as well. I've got so many other things on my wish list as well that are from various other publishers. I just haven't read them yet. So I do want to focus a little bit more on creators outside of Marvel on top of all the Marvel comics, so I would like to get that TBR down at least a little bit. I'm also going to say I want to use the library more, but that is just a thing that will hopefully happen. But again, I'm not going to hold myself to this one too much because of obviously state of the world. And I am, quite frankly, I'm not going to lie, put my hands up in here and say I am struggling quite a lot with being out in public and being anywhere near people and touching things that other people may have touched and all the rest of it. I am getting therapy, starts mid-January, so that's fine. Hopefully, fingers crossed. If you're struggling, please do seek help, because I assure you it is worth it, and I will hopefully talk more about this once I get my therapy. But I'm hoping that's going to help me, because I've got a lot of things planned next year that, if they go ahead, will involve me being in arenas full of people, because concerts and theatre shows and stuff like this. So I also want to extend that to the library and be able to go to the library. So what I'm hoping for is that once I have had therapy and I'm feeling a bit better and I am vaccinated and the libraries are back open again, I can use it. But who knows? Hopefully this will happen, but if it doesn't happen, then God knows what's going to happen in 2021 to not let that happen, but hopefully that will happen. And then as for some channel goals, I do have a couple of channel goals and sort of like booktube community type goals. The first one is that I really want to start talking to people more, because I am a lurker. I am a terrible, horrendous lurker who ends up lurking on everybody's videos and not commenting, or like on Twitter seeing something and being like, oh, I like this thing too, and then not actually saying it. So I would like to talk more to people and make more booktube friends and all the rest of it. So that is a goal, to just sort of push me out my comfort zone a bit more and be like, hey, look, talk to people, that's how you make friends, go talk to people. I'd also like to co-host a readathon at some point. I don't know what on. It would probably end up being graphic novels. Let's be honest with ourselves here. It will probably be a graphic novel readathon, but I would love to read graphic novels and just do a graphic novel readathon, because I just want to celebrate how much I love readathons. So I'd love to do that. And now the last thing I have to mention is the reading challenges, because there's a few of them. I like doing reading challenges, and hopefully this time next year I'll look at this video again. So the first one I have to mention is the science fiction and fantasy badge-a-thon. I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically, there's a whole load of science fiction and fantasy badges, and they've created like a whole badge thing, and then you collect each one for each book you read to do with that. I will leave a link to it down below, because that was a horrendous explanation, but I really like the idea of reading more science fiction and fantasy. Obviously I read a lot of fantasy, but maybe this will encourage me to read more sci-fi, so I'm doing this one. There's also Turtle Recall again. I really enjoyed doing Turtle Recall because it wasn't like a huge commitment type of thing. I just want to read 5 again, because that's still going to take me, I don't know, 8 years to get through if I read 4 or 5 a year, but I'm not going to hold myself to reading 4 or 5 a year. If I only read 1 or 2, that's fine. I'm stretching Pratchett out for as long as physically possible, so I will read. I'm doing Turtle Recall and trying to read just a couple, not that many, stretching out as far as possible. And then the final 2 I have to mention are the Avengers reading challenges. Now there are 2 of them, which probably is going to get confusing because they're going to have 2 completely different sets of prompts and rules and all the rest of it, but I don't really care. I'm going to do both. I will leave links to both of them down below. Currently, at time of filming, I cannot actually tell you what one of them's about, because the announcement video isn't out yet. There's just been a teaser trailer and it was wonderfully extra and I loved it. So that's what is going to be on this list, even though I have no idea what it's about further than the Avengers. And that's all I really needed to know, because I'm an Avengers nerd. And anything to do with the Avengers I will do. So I want to do both of these because they both sound like fun. And I really like doing Avengers themed things. So Avengers reading challenges it is. And with that, that is the end of my reaction for my 2020 goals and my 2021 goals. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below with some of your goals for 2021. I'd love to know. I'll also leave a link down below to all of my social media if you want to check it out, so come chat to me if you want to, because obviously, like I said, I want to chat to more people and get used to talking to people, so please do follow me, chat to me, whatever. I'll leave links down below. I'll also leave a link down below to the Comic Book Sanctum as well, if you are interested in Marvel Comics and getting into them and all the rest of it. The Sanctum is linked down below, and if you want to see any more of my videos where I may do some of those fun intro things that I was talking about, please click subscribe here, and over here will be the link to my previous video. But until next time everyone, bye!